Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we're doing another installment of the weekly meta breakdown where we look at the top performing decks on MTG Arena for the various formats. This particular video will be for traditional standard best of 3. If you're looking for standard best of 1, historic, or explorer, just check out the playlist. We try to get out a new video for each of the formats, best of 1, best of 3 each week. And we try to get them up through the playlist. As always, we get the data from Untapped GG. Companion tool that runs alongside Arena Client, tracks win rates, loss rates, whole bunch of cool functionality. A whole bunch of it is free to use, and the link in the video description down below. I'll also paste these deck lists into the video description if you want to copy them into place. Trying out a couple different formats and we're going to test them for the week. Historic, I just did the best kind of spread of decks. Platinum to Mythic Rank. For best of 1, I did the 5 best Mythic decks. And then for this particular video, I'm going to do the 5 best standard best of 3 decks from Platinum to Mythic Rank, larger range of deck lists. In the comments, let me know which format you prefer the most. Covering more decks, doing top 5s, focusing as much as possible on the Mythic decks, and eliminating some of the noise. Let me know in the comments what you prefer. I'm kind of flexible in that. I just want to try out to see which the viewer is enjoying the most. But we're going to jump into it. So this is November 20th to 27th. We're about week 2 of Brothers War release. We have 26,000 matches of Magic played, so 2 to 3 times that because it's best of 3. And we are looking at the top performing deck of the week is Mardu Angels, 67.7%. So this is the list that Crows, another content creator, popularized. So he went on like a 20-1 run with variations of this deck on his Twitch channel. But what are we looking at in this deck? What makes it unique to some of the other Mardu, black-red, black-white piles? Well, it's kind of got an angel sub-theme. So we got Giada, Font of Hope. We got Inspiring Overseer for card advantage. We have Archangel of Wrath, which can be used as a kick spell to deal a whole bunch of damage, gain you a whole bunch of life. And then we got a copy of Sanctuary Warden on the top end. So lets your angels kind of get bigger when they come in multiple times. A lot of good threats to copy here with Fable the Mirror Breaker, Overseer's card advantage, Archangel of Wrath. While you can't kick it off the copy, it's just a good attacker to help swing like life total races. You have Sanctuary Warden as just another good card to copy as well. Some AOs, just a very good card, especially in the face of Wandering Emperors. And then some piecemeal cards. So you got Blood Tithe Harvester, very, very good card with Fable the Mirror Breaker. Removal options and Destroy Evil, go for the throat. Brotherhood's End as a kind of sweeper effect. Mixed in Shieldred because you need to be playing Shieldred because it's very good. And then lastly, some Thalias as taxing effects. All your spells are relatively cheap. You also have a copy of Extraction Specialist to buy back your Blood Tithe Harvesters, Giada, or Thalia. As always with these sideboards, we kind of just go over kind of how you'd want to board these in terms of matchups. Duress versus kind of these mid-rangey and control decks. Destroy Evil for either enchantment heavy decks or stuff that's playing a lot of Shieldred, like bigger toughness. Grind elements, Graveyard Hate, taxing effects for these mid-range decks. Aggressive decks or artifact like Anvil decks. General kind of grind, just planeswalker heavy decks when some of your removal doesn't make sense. For say playing a blue-white control deck. This has text versus Go for the Throat that typically doesn't. Wandering Emperor can be brought in a variety of matchups, things that you want to exile that get outpaced from the aggressive decks, counterspell decks, stuff like that, and then another Sanctuary Warden for the grindier matchups. Next deck, Azorius Soldiers, 66.5% win rate. So we got a couple elements here. So you got a Recruitment Officer and Yodian Frontliner as your 1-drops. Card advantage, recurable graveyard effect. You got full 4 copies of Harbin Vanguard Aviator, 2-mana 3/2 flyer that gives you a boost with everything getting flying and +1/+1 if you attack with 5 or more soldiers. Getting to 5 or more soldiers is helped with Resolute Reinforcements, 2 mana for 2 bodies. Thalia for tax, Valiant Veteran as Lord effect and Graveyard Pump. You have Brutal Cathar's removal. In the Trenches as both a Lord effect and removal as well. Siege Veteran for pump effects. And then Board Wipe or removal insurance. Sky Strike Officer as go wide strategy. And then also card advantage. Being soldiers, you get advantage of the Fortified Beachhead. Basically lets you have an untapped dual land, which is very good for an aggressive deck. This deck should be playing more Adhikar Waste There's no reason why it shouldn't. I would play those over the Deserted Beach, but really even just trimming maybe 1 or 2 of these, or like a Plains, you should be playing the full complement of them, I'd say. But you have a pump effect there. Guardian and New Benalia for the heavy targeted removal decks. Graveyard Hate, tax effects for, like, say the Grixis matchup, the Mardu matchup, the Esper Legends matchup, anything you want to kind of tax out of their hand. The removal spell and Brutal Cathar for the grindier matchups. Kaya's Reconstruction. This lets you kind of do a collected company impression, lets you dig deeper into your deck. Lorn as artifact and enchantment removal, and then Wandering Emperor again for, like, if they have like a lot of sweepers, or like we need to exile, kind of just a flexible card all around. Wandering Emperor is like the tough one because he's playing aggressive decks all the way to like blue-white control with no creatures. The next deck, Esper Legends. So Legends, not a Ratabratic deck, but playing Legends because you get Plaza Heroes, which is an untapped tri-land. A lot of good legendary creatures here, but you're kind of built around, as always in these Esper colors, a Rafine Shell. Lets you get rid of your duplicate copies. And then what you have is like Ashnot, which lets you turn artifacts into tokens. Also just a 1-mana Death Toucher, can get pumped through. Denic, Lifelink, 2 bodies in 1, can be flashed back through its disturb cost, so throwing in the graveyard has advantage. Destroy Evil as removal. Harbin as just a good evasive body. Chadar, reoccurring kind of creatures. Thalia for tax. Adeline, again, just a good body that makes go wide. Gix for more card advantage. Toulouse kind of does its Diviner Fates impersonation in the standard format. Then your 4-drops, Urtai, counter or removal. Shieldred for being Shieldred. Wandering Emperor, flexible spell, and then a couple of AOs on the top end. You also have 4 of a Janjo in this deck, which is pretty ambitious. This deck never wants to see a demolition field in the format, but this lets you, there's so many legendaries that this is just removal spells in your mana base. You'll see 28 lands in the deck, so you're basically using these mana, like these lands, as removal spells. Pretty clean sideboard. Enchantment decks or big toughness decks, like think Rafine decks, hits Rafine, hits Adeline, hits Shieldred, hits AO, all the key things you want to hit. Disdainful Strokes versus the bigger mana decks, Grixis, stuff like that. Invoke decks, Graveyard Hate, removal, Ratadrabic against the heavy removal decks, another Shieldred when Shieldred's really needed, aggressive decks, stuff like that, and then another copy of Wandering Emperor. We then go to Mono Black Aggro, 62% win rate. So this particular version here, lower on the curve. So we still see a couple of copies of main deck Duress, a lot of kind of these mid-rangey shells. Evolve Sleeper, we're seeing a Misery Shadow, Razor / Transmogrant, Tainted Adversary, Tenacious Underdog split. So recur from the graveyard, exile stuff, pays kind of early game, late game kind of value, comes back from the graveyard. So a couple different variants of what they're doing with their 2-drops to kind of approach the game in different manners. Gix is kind of the linchpin of this deck. So many lower cost creatures that this will fill your hand. Flush Gorger, 3 mana or 7 mana, depending on how you want to approach it. But a very flexible spell that can help swing life gain, or like races through the life gain. We got Shieldreds as well as Invoke Despairs. Interesting, 26 lands in this particular version. While the curve is a bit lower, this is really can be played as a 7-drop as well. You have Mana Sinks and Evolve Sleeper in Misery Shadow. This could come back from the graveyard as a Mana Sink, Mana Sink, Mana Sink. So a lot of ways to kind of do that. And then you also got the 4 Mishra's Foundries as well. And then lastly, Grixis Midrange. I'm going to preface, Grixis can be built a lot of different ways. There's an Anvil version, there's this version, there's the No Blade Coil version, there's the Invoke Despair version. This particular Grixis deck has the highest win rate of the Grixis decks, so we are featuring it. And what we're getting in this one, kind of your core, Fable the Mirror Breaker, Corpse Appraiser. You got your Shieldreds in here, Bloodtithe Harvesters. This version is playing the Blade Coil Serpent, 6 mana mythic that can be paid X in addition. Every blue you draw, every 2 blues that cast it, draw a card. Every 2 blacks your opponent discards. Every 2 reds, haste and trample to end the turn. Teferi just kind of gives you card advantage, continually growing bodies, and just a tough to kill with combat damage Planeswalker. Urtai, just catch all, kind of removal or counter. Kaido for card advantage. Some Tainted Indulgence to kind of smooth out your draws, make disappear, go for the throat, and then just like a Scattering, a Braid, cut down, Voltage Surge as it matters. Sideboard again, extra removal, cut down, a Braid, go for the throat, Sweeper and Brotherhood's End, and the Soul Transfer. Hand Hate for the mid-range decks, Disdainful Strokes for the big mana decks, Negates for these kind of mid-range shells where like you get more of the kind of haymakers, think of like an Invoke Despair deck, and then another Shieldred when it's relevant. So that's pretty much it for the week. Best of 3. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, if you are enjoying this type of stuff, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back for the rest of the videos. In any case, thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you have a great one, and stay safe out there.